Welcome to the Rise with Americanstruction podcast. I'm your host, Nick DeGregorio, and today I'm honored to be joined by an absolutely exceptional leader, Mr. Dan Cawley, and he's the founder of Cawley Commercial Real Estate. Over a 47-year career, Dan has built a boutique, client-first brokerage known for deep sub-market expertise, enduring relationships, and a culture of servant leadership. From early beginnings to building a firm that's touched billions in transactions, Dan's story is not just about faith, values, and doing right by people, but this was long before and also during these deals. It's just absolutely extraordinary what Dan has done, and Dan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Nick. I'm humbled by what you said. It seems like a lot, for sure.
Well, it's a lot what you've done throughout your career, so I'm excited to be able to share that with our following and others that I know have been touched by your story, Dan. So I just wanted to start out with what brought you to start this extraordinary organization. Who am I here with today?
So I'm Dan Cawley, the founder of Cawley Commercial Real Estate. I sold the business in 2023 to some partners that we gained in a purchase of another real estate company in the city in 2018. The original business plan for the company, which we started in 1998, was to eventually, I just thought it'd be silly to spend up your blood, sweat, and tears for however long and then stick a key in the door and lock it up. So the plan was always to sell the business at some point. And so we approached building the company from the standpoint of it's going to be a long-term deal. It's something that we want to create a brand for, and carve out a niche in the market, and so far it's worked. So
it's amazing. It definitely has worked.
Yeah, thanks.
Just seeing the different things and through our conversations that we've had in breakfast is just amazing to learn that story. And how did you decide to get into commercial real estate, and why this lane?
I think it's pretty simple. My dad had a commercial real estate company. I'm born and raised in a small little town in north central Illinois. LaSalle, Peru is the name of the town. And my dad started a real estate company July 3rd, 1958. And so I was kind of raised in the business. I saw my father's love of the business, and he was always happy and fired up. And my personality is similar to his. I have a brother that's a developer in Dallas. His personality is like my dad's, or our dad's, I should say. So the fact that he had this real estate business, I just was natural for that transition to happen. Going to college, I knew that I was probably going to end up working for him when I got out.
That makes a lot of sense, having that background with the family commercial real estate company kind of started you on that trajectory. And I guess prior to that, what were you really doing before becoming a business leader and now owning your own firm?
That generation, my parents' generation, they wanted their kids to have what they couldn't have or didn't have, which was a college education. So I was not forced into, but my father was insistent on the fact that I'm going to get a college education.
Yeah.
And so, and for me at that time in the country, what's interesting is at this point in my life, at 73 years old, I've seen history repeat itself. And so in the mid-60s, I was in high school and I graduated in 70 and went into college. And so there were assassinations, there was social upheaval, there were unpopular wars. All of that was going on back in the 60s and 70s. And so, and you look at where we are today in the world. So anyway, so I go to school, and the Vietnam War was raging. I was actually drafted, but they had a thing called student deferments back in those days. And so what that meant was, as long as you were in school, you wouldn't go to Vietnam. I actually went through the process of being drafted. I had a draft card, took the physical and all of that. And back in those days, they had the lottery. And so the lottery that year, it was based on your birth dates. So they drafted up to 115. My draft number is 117. Whew. Right?
That could have changed the trajectory of your life.
Oh, it's just right. And what's interesting is that my father was kind of a hawk, wanted, America and all of that. But as soon as I got drafted and he realized what was going on in Vietnam, he wanted to protect me. And so he said,
Right.
make sure that you get your grades because I don't want you going over there. Anyway, so go to college. There's a lot of upheaval, as I said, socially. And so, there was drugs all over the place, mostly pot, but there was other stuff. And so I went to college, got turned on a bunch of that kind of stuff. Loved school, worked hard, did well. Vietnam War ended in January 72, I believe, second semester.
Mm-hmm.
I was, like a B- student, and that second semester, things kind of took a tumble.
Yeah.
And I ended up. It took me. It took me 5 years to get through college. Anyway, so I got through school, but I had kind of gotten into this drug scene, and mostly for fun, but it turned the wrong direction at some point. So I left college in '77 and went to work for my dad. And what I had, the drug situation that I had acquired while I was in college continued and escalated as time went by. So, I started working for Dad, and I worked for him for about 10 years. And things weren't going very well for me. And it's, not to sound like a victim, but I was being a victim. And the drugs had kind of taken over my life, and I ended up, addicted to cocaine. And that kind of blew up the relationship with my father and my family and my friends and everybody. Addiction is an awful thing. In March of '85, kind of culminated, and it was one or the other. It was either the drugs or wasn't going to make it. So it was a fall so far down that it's difficult for me to actually think about myself in that situation. So I remember waking up. So I'm born on St. Patrick's Day. So the whole world celebrates St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yep.
So every birthday I had, it was always this big party and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, with the bad habits I picked up, this was a 5-day binge I'd been on. No sleep, doing coke, and drinking, and just partying my tail off. And when I woke up on so St. Patrick's Day is March 17th every year, it doesn't move. When I woke up on the 18th, I had no idea what time it was, but I was just like, oh my God. I'd been doing some bad things. I was lying, I was stealing money. It was just, whatever I could do to support my habit. So, and as a matter of fact, one of the women that I was involved with ended up being pregnant, and I was confronted with that situation.
Yeah.
Denied it because I didn't have time for that.
Right.
And finally acquiesced, and I signed adoption papers in I think August of '79. So, and that was the last thing I thought about that, other than on New Year's Day of 1980, she called me to let me know that she had a son. She also gave him up for adoption, and that was that. So we're back on 85. I wake up after a 5-day binge.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all the money I've stolen and the relationships I've destroyed, and the mountain just was
Tough.
Yeah, well, it's just seemed insurmountable. I didn't really have much faith in my life, and without faith, I don't think you have hope.
Right.
And I felt like at that point in my life, there was no hope, and so, the alternative was take myself out.
Wow.
So that's what I plan to do. And I made that, like I said, I woke up on Sunday morning. This all just flooded into my head. It's like,
Snowball.
yeah, I'm going to make this. I'm going to do this today. And so I came up with a plan, to commit suicide. And so I took a shower, and when I got out of the shower, I rubbed I took a shower because Mom was always, hey, make sure that you're clean underwear, right? In case you're in an accident. Stupid. But anyway, so I'm standing there in the mirror, and I wiped the mirror to shave as well, because I hadn't shaved in the 5 days I was binging. And my eyes caught my own eyes, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm thinking about, like, this all just rushed into my head about the last 10, 11 years, actually. But just, I was just drugging and drinking 8 hours ago, and now I'm thinking about suicide. And so standing there, the shaver in my hand's like, you really gonna do this? And I heard a voice in my mind, because I looked around. I didn't see anybody else in my apartment, right? And this voice said to me, I did not create you for this. I have work for you to do, and you need to get busy.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So, 5-day binge, no sleep, I'm freaking out. So I grabbed some clothes that I had laid out, like workout stuff, and I put that on. I ran out of this apartment as quick as I could get, and went down the steps, and I remember how deathly quiet it was outside. And I was living in this downtown LaSalle, and there's always traffic. I lived on a main street. There was nothing going on.
Wow.
And so, I'm standing at the bottom of the steps. I'm looking up at the staircase thinking, did this all just happen? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I ended up going for a walk. I was gone a couple hours. And, through the walk, I was crying and I was, speaking out to the Lord and asking Him, what do I do? What do I do? And when I got back, I went upstairs and took another shower. And didn't shave that time because I didn't want another voice like good.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I got dressed and I got in my car and I drove to my parents' house. And I had alienated, like everybody in my life. I have a brother and 2 sisters and friends and parents especially, and lying to them and stealing money.
Right.
Anyway, so I walked in the door, scared out, freaked out, and they were surprised to see me, but thankfully they were both home. And so I said to them, listen, I got to talk to you. I got to tell you what's going on. And so I just kind of confessed, the whole thing. I don't know how long that conversation was, but I can tell you that within seconds of my confession, they forgave me.
Wow.
I've never had a feeling like that before in my life. And so after forgiving, the next thing that they want to do is, okay, how do we fix it?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go through the gory details of all of the sins basically that I had committed for the last 11 years, right? And but it was an amazing conversation, and I felt safe for the first time in a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, we went on about the business of righting the wrongs.
Yeah. Praise the Lord for an amazing family that had your back, and that's just a remarkable testimony. And I don't think there's a testimony without the test. And for you to really be able to persevere through that says a lot about your character, and it says a lot about the family that was always there for you and stayed with you through the ups, the downs, and and the ugly. And I know we talked a little bit about faith in the opener, and you mentioned some faith throughout the conversation. How did you eventually come to know our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Was it through that test, or was it something else that led you? And just for the background a little bit, Dan and I met through CREF, which is a real estate organization, and they have an incredible breakfast every year, and then they started a real estate Bible study, which has just absolutely been extraordinary for me to meet leaders like Dan through the Word, and something that I don't think is talked about enough in this industry. But sorry for that sidetrack, Dan. Kind of back to the main question of how you really
having heard my history, it's hard to believe that I'm a leader, isn't it?
Right.
So coming to the Lord. Well, obviously, I said that having instant forgiveness from my parents for the chaos that I created was a feeling that I'd never had before. And so the opportunity that I had to make wrongs right goes back to how my mom and dad raised us. You know, we were raised the way, that back in the 60s in a small town, you know, it's Catholic, Christian values.
Yeah.
You know, you go to school, you do your homework, you're respectful, you're well-mannered. You know, the parents just want to be proud of their children, and the children, they want their children to be respectful and help everybody. So I had a chance to, I felt like I had a second chance there, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so I started going back to church, to the Catholic Church, and was pretty devout about doing it regularly. You know, I ended up coming to Chicago. So the conversation, again, small town, you know, Dad and I sat down. Is one of the problems that we had to figure out or assess was, okay, so we're in a small town. My father had the reputation.
Yeah.
Right? And I had done my best to dirty that.
Seems like at that time you got to burn in that reputation.
Yeah. But, I mean, he let that go, right? It's just crazy. Yeah. So, anyway, he said, look, this is a small town. People have long memories here. And I said, yes, I've had that experience. And he said, you know, you ought to think about maybe going somewhere else to do business. And he said to me, listen, if I were you, single, 32 years old, I'd go to a bigger town. Like, I think you should go to Chicago. And what was interesting is that the previous year, my brother Bill had left and gone to Dallas to seek fame and fortune, which he ended up doing. And that's a whole nother story. And he was an alcoholic. He was and got sober, and then just his career blew up. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, so Dad and I decided it would be best for me to leave his business and come to Chicago. And you know, a God thing. I think like the weekend after having that conversation, one of my good friends from college here in the suburbs was getting married, so I went up to the wedding, and I'm standing at the bar while a bunch of other stuff is going on. There's one guy standing there, and so, hey, who are you, blah, blah, blah. And I mentioned I was in real estate looking for a job up here. So, well, I'm in the moving business, and this guy, he gave me this guy's name. He said, he's a broker, he's doing great, you should go talk to him. You know, I was there 15 minutes, and I was just like, whoa, yeah, right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there's no coincidences.
No.
Right? So, anyway, had a conversation with him, and then called that guy on Monday, and was up there on Tuesday and interviewed with him, and then ended up interviewing with a few other companies, and got a job and started up here, and I was broke, so I moved in with my parents at 32 years old. How much fun would that have been for them?
Right.
And so I commuted every day.
Wow.
It's 86 miles one way. I'd get up in the morning, and I gained a bunch of weight. I was up to like 250, 246 or something. So I'd go for a 3-mile run. I was an athlete my whole life, except for the last 11 years. Anyway, so I get up in the morning, go for a 3-mile run, and I come back and have Mom would make me breakfast, and Dad would slip $10 in my hand so I could buy gas and have lunch. And so I would drive, I'd leave the house at like 7 o'clock in the morning, drive to Oak Brook, work all day, drive home, do another 3-mile run, have dinner, and I'd go to bed. And that was my kind of my recovery for the first 6 months. And I went from that 246 number down to like 180.
And you maintained it because you look amazing.
Well, thanks. Thanks very much. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes work, right?
It does.
Yeah. So ultimately, I started to make some money up here. But for 22 months, I commuted back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I had a situation, a family that could support me in that. And I learned so much about myself, because in those rides, that was before cell phones, so music or something or nothing. Right. And a lot of times turned the radio off and just was kind of sitting and praying, talking to God, and keep me going and keep me sober and so
yeah.
Anyway, so I worked. I worked for. I went to work for First United Realtors. They're gone now, but they were the 3rd largest residential real estate company in the country.
Oh wow!
And a guy in Chicago was the first guy in the country to have multiple offices. He came up with that concept, and so there were 44 offices that this company had. And I figured, well, there should be a lot of input,
right?
Because they didn't know anybody, right? So I was looking for some referrals while I learned the market. So I worked for them for 7 years, and then I got recruited away to a boutique firm, solely commercial. So this was more residential than it was commercial.
Commercial, yeah.
But I got recruited to this other company, and was there about 2 years, and they made me a partner. I was doing well.
Wow.
Right, started making some dough, and then they wanted me to recruit and manage the brokers and try to build a team. So I did that as well. And about 6 years into that deal, I was generating substantial amount, more than half of the income for the company. And these guys had money, and I was thinking, well, I could help them spend some of that and do investments and build some wealth and blah, 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 right? Being a real estate guy, always thinking about wealth.
Yep.
So I went to him, I said, listen, I love it here, you guys are great, but I'd like to get a little bit more of ownership in the business, and I want to try to invest money with you in some of the deals that you guys are doing. And they said, okay, no problem, we'll get back to you. So they never got back to me.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was calling my dad. Hey, these guys never talk to me. What's going on? I can't figure it out. And he kept saying, hey, look, it'll all work out. Just give them a year and see what happens. So I also had developed a pretty strong client base, and one of my clients, actually, he was my best client at the time. Meaning, best client meaning he was a guy that I was doing the most business with.
Yeah.
And he had become, I've been blessed in that I've had amazing people step into my life at the exact moment that I needed somebody to do that. And it's happened several times. And they believed in me more than I believed in myself. And that was the remarkable thing, because they helped me learn to believe in myself. So this guy said, so I was telling him about, wah. And he said, well, why don't you start your own company? Well, he put me on the spot, right? Well, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
And so he came forward, he said, is it about the money? And I said, yeah, it is. I'm afraid. I'm scared about the money. He said, well, listen, I'll take care of that. You go start your company.
Wow, what a blessing.
Right? I'm thinking, what? You talking to me?
Right.
Yeah. So he basically financed the start of Cawley Commercial Real Estate.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What a backstory. There's so much to unpack there, and I want to go back to, in this world we live in today, I think it's flooded with instant gratification. And at 32
sure.
to move back in with your parents and now have the extraordinary career that you have here today, a lot of people don't think if they're making six figures, $1 million a year at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, or before they're even 30, they haven't made it or they're worthless just due to the glamour that you see through the different apps. And I just love your story and how you went from the lowest lows to some of the highest highs through putting in hard work, time, energy, and effort, and also building that relationship with the Lord and trusting in others around you. And it seems to me that God's had his favor on you and your brother throughout your life and your family in general with just the miraculous things that have happened. I'd love to go back to when you were in that room and that voice came to you. What do you think that was? Or do you think that kind of altered the habits, decisions, and relationships moving forward? Or what was kind of going through your head? I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'd love to go deeper on when that voice was kind of speaking to you when you were thinking about committing suicide. Because I know a lot of our following, they either know somebody, they have a relative, or themselves are thinking about potentially committing suicide, or maybe addicted to drugs, or have those similar issues. And I really appreciate you with you being vulnerable about that, because now it opens maybe others up to know that they got to go talk to somebody or voice those concerns. So I meant that to say I'd just love to hear more about that situation.
Well, so let me just start by saying, without those people around me, there was no chance. I had no chance. Again, I was out of hope, right? There's no hope. I think faith and hope are interrelated.
Mm-hmm.
And so without the support of those people, there's the hill, the ride up, or the mountain would have been so much more difficult than what it was. It was difficult for sure. It was specific to the conversation or hearing the voice and getting the message of the voice. There was lots and lots of doubt about it, Nick. I mean, did this really happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've been awake for 5 days, just doing blow like crazy, right? Just to keep up, and going from one place to another place to another place to another place. And so I've thought long and hard on numerous occasions about, did I hear that or not? And I am certain I did. It felt audible to me, but there was nobody else in the room. It was just me. And I was in a studio apartment, so it wasn't very big. And I would have seen somebody from the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's what happened. And so, as I've gone through my life, I heard him again. I'm going to attribute that voice to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I heard him again in 2008 in the middle of the financial meltdown in the country.
Yeah.
And this time I was on my knees. I had accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior in 2004.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, of course. So my brother, I'm the oldest of four. My brother's 17 months younger, so we're like Irish twins.
Okay.
Love the guy to death. He's amazing. Anyway, so he was alcoholic, got sober. He was in a serious motorcycle accident in July of 1995. And for 6 or 7 months, he was in a cast and he couldn't wipe his own behind.
Wow.
Couldn't feed himself. Couldn't do anything. He had basically fractured, a compound fracture of his forearm, and his wrists were basically turned to powder. And to this day, one arm is a little bit shorter than the other arm. But so he was all casted up. That's when he found Christ. And it was a friend of his, a good friend of his, that had him accept Christ. So my two sisters went down there through that first 6 months, and they each spend a week, and they'd alternate times back and forth, so we was never alone. Even my brother was single at the time. And anyway, so it was the change that I saw in him. He and I were always competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I was the athlete, he got the girls.
Especially growing up with the family business too and whatnot, competing.
Yeah. So we were competitive,
Right.
and not overly so, but enough.
Brotherly love.
Yeah, well, yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah. But I saw this change in him, and one of the things that I've learned in my life is that I keep, if you expect somebody else to change, the thing that you need to do first is you need to look at yourself. 100%. You make a change. If you want somebody else to change, you need to make a change. Anyway, so with him, our relationship flipped. The competition drained out of the relationship, and it just became about brotherly love and admiration and respect and all of those positive things in life. And he's one of those people that stepped into my life at the exact right moment too. Right. So he brought me to Christ. With all of the millions of dollars he's made, the single thing that he will tell you from an accomplishment standpoint was having me accept Christ.
That's love. What an amazing story.
Yeah. So anyway, so it took a while because it was 2004. So I go down to see him, and we had golf in common, so we played golf, and he was just constantly encouraging me, but not like hitting me over the head with a hammer or anything.
Right.
And so as our relationship grew and deepened, and we started to make sense, I went back to church, Christian church, Bible-based stuff, because that's what he had experienced. And so, so we're out for dinner, and he and his wife I went to dinner with he and his wife, and they were kind of prodding me a little bit at dinner, and actually, so in their car on the way home, I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior.
Praise the Lord.
In the car. It's like, it's crazy, yeah. Yeah, and it was wild from the standpoint of, there's no confetti or balloons or sirens going off, but it was just this exhale. It just felt like there was this weight.
Right. And I could see it in your face. It almost seems like you felt that peace.
I did. I had experienced it with him in our relationship.
Right.
And it's like, I want that.
Especially everything that you went through from 89 to 04, and with your brother's injury and almost losing him, and almost losing yourself, for you guys to come together and have that connection and relationship is something that I don't think very few 0.111% of people on the planet may have that bond now with their family and their brothers. So it's amazing. What would you say changed really for your life right after you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?
Relief.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think a little bit calmer perspective. I think people in our industry, sales in particular, we're type A's, right? And we're go. And sometimes you do have to stop, because I know that I go too fast for lots of people. And so, learning to kind of slow down a little bit and listening to what somebody else has to say.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it calmed kind of my personality, it calmed my life. And it honestly, when I look at the path that I've been on, the valleys, I think is how you described it, in our setup for today's conversation.
Yeah.
That I have a purpose. God gave me a purpose in life. And because I made so many bad decisions, he's like, okay, go ahead. You want to do that? Go ahead. But he was still there at the end to catch me. But he was bound and determined that I was going to live his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the thing that changed the most. I wrote a mission statement that I'm going to call my life's purpose statement in 1992 when I first started to write business plans. And so I think that is who I am, and it describes what my purpose is on earth. And so that's when I really dove into that purpose in 2004.
Okay.
It's when that really started to light up for me.
And then when did you start? Cawley was
1998.
around 1998. So you guys had been going for about 6 years then. And would you say the trajectory of the organization changed when, I guess in a sense, you changed? And how did that flow through? Because I know for me, I accepted the Lord and Savior as mine about 1.5 years ago. And it's battles, especially being in commercial real estate. There's tons of battles that you face. So I'd love to hear what you think of how you were able to fight those temptations, fight those battles, being in the commercial real estate realm.
Well, it's a great question. Having hope in your life is huge, because there's always tomorrow. Because today might be a bad day, but there's tomorrow. You hope that there's, you're going to get another shot at things. And so, but through the drug addiction and the recovery there, knowing that there's another side to all of that, right? That there is a way out. That's the hope part, right? And then to be supported by family and friends, the love and the grace that you get from people forgiving. I'm telling you, forgiveness is so powerful. Having God in my life is what enabled me to kind of calm myself down and focus on who I am and who God wants me to be. It's my commitment was to try to make a difference in people's lives, professionally and personally, by passionately creating integrity-based, fun, and healthy relationships. That's my mission statement.
Amazing.
That's the life I've been living, accidentally for a long time, but on purpose once I got reconnected to God.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And so that's encompassed all kinds of different things, but it really helped me and the company specifically in the financial meltdown in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and parts of 12 probably, right? In that I was on my knees. I went to him first instead of drugs, instead of drinking,
right?
Instead of all that stuff, right? And I was asking him, tell me what to do. Tell me what do I need to do? What's my role here? Help me understand my purpose. How do you want me to behave? And what I heard back from him was be transparent and be completely vulnerable.
Wow.
So I had a company meeting the next day and got everybody in the company, and they were all kind of freaked out, right? Because the whole world was kind of shaken down.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, here's the deal. This is where personally I am financially. And things aren't good. And I'm not sure I can make payroll. But here's the plan on how I think we can get through this. If you all want to stay. I want you to stay. I think we can do this. This is my plan. This is how we're going to do it. So I just laid it out for them. And before 04, there's no way I'd have that conversation because I'd be too afraid.
Yeah.
I'd be more consumed with the fear than I would be about trusting that this can be overcome.
Right.
And then having a plan to do it. And like I said, I started writing my business plans in 92, so I was adept at doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I spent my time, instead of being afraid, writing a plan to make it work.
Right.
So that's how it went. And one of those things that kind of showed up as a result of that commitment. So I had bought a condo, an office condo. It was spec, and so I got a loan from the bank to do the inside, started the construction. The bank pulled the loan, said, no, we're not gonna do that. This is in the middle of the
Financial crisis?
Yeah, financial crisis. So in 2008, we were 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, well, let's have a 10-year anniversary party, right? To celebrate.
To celebrate,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Well,
Businesses normally don't last for a year or two.
yeah, well, so I start construction on
Huge
this.
accomplishment.
Yeah, well, and so they stopped they didn't give me the tenant improvement allowance money, which was like 120 grand or something. And so I started spending my line of credit to make payroll and to finish the condo. And then, so the bank that had financed the condo called me and said, and I called them. I said, listen, I'm not gonna be able to make payments for a while. I said, well, why not? I said, well, you paying attention to what's going on in the market here?
Right.
I mean,
you're a bank, aren't you?
yeah, well, and the thing that happened in 8, 9, 10, 11 that's different than what's happened since then is that they sucked all the liquidity out, so there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
I started my career in '77 when interest rates were 12.5%, and we were building spec houses, and the loan at the end of the construction was 22%, but you get the money. They
Right.
give you the dough.
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, and 12? No, sir. Matter of fact, what I promised you, I'm not going to give you.
Yeah.
So I remember when he called me and said, yeah, I'm calling you no, Duke. Can you swing by and drop off a check? I said, no, I can't because I don't have it. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, I know. Well, but, we're calling all our notes due. And I said to him, so are you, I don't have the money. Conversation didn't end well. So I sat back, I hung up, I sat back in my chair, and I forgot to ask him, there was one question I didn't ask him. So I called him back. He picked up the phone right away. I said, Dave, look, if you're foreclosing on me, you got to be foreclosing on some other people, right? He says, as a matter of fact, Dan, we are. We've got more than we know what to do with. I said, is anybody managing those properties for you? Through the process, the foreclosure process? Because there's a process through foreclosure,
100%,
right?
yeah.
And he said, no. So, well, look, I've got lots of property management experience. Why don't you guys hire me? I'll manage your buildings, and whatever the fees are, we'll use that to pay my note off. He said, maybe. So I'll get back to you. So he called me back a few days later and said, okay, you got a job. So, yeah.
People coming into your life right when you need them.
Well, right.
Well, making situations happen,
but
too.
being in a position where you hang up the phone, instead of slamming the phone down and being mad,
Right, being mad.
you sit back and, well, if they're foreclosing on me, I mean, it's
Creating an opportunity. out of uncertainty.
clear-headed thinking, right?
It's amazing.
Crazy. So, we started the property management business, and that's what got us through the financial burden of no cash flow. That provided cash flow. And the guy that I hired to run the business, he was kind of out of work, so he was willing to do it on the come, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now that he's one of the major partners here at the firm, and they're managing almost 10 million square feet. So it's a great success story just by being
Amazing.
calm and clear-minded about things instead of being emotional and scared. Right? The fear thing is so crazy.
It is, in finding opportunities in uncertainty. This is just an extraordinary conversation on a masterclass, truly. When you're going through something difficult, trust in the Lord, because at that time you got on your knees. You didn't turn to the drugs. You didn't turn to the alcohol or somebody else. You turned to that relationship and that conversation that you had built with your trust in God, and then also to be able to go through those difficulties and that adversity and not get down on yourself or be upset about the situation, but find opportunities in that uncertainty. It's just truly extraordinary. And I love really everything you said about that success story, because it really is, it shows the true colors of what happens when you turn your cheek to the negativity and to the situation that's happening in the world.
Yeah, but don't forget, I said no to that for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because again, having hope was the difference maker for me, because I was out of hope,
Yeah.
right? But and it was totally because of the choices I was making, drugs versus whatever, everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it seems to me you turned hope into helping other people every day.
well,
Because instead of relying on that, you started to rely on something else.
yeah, that was always part of my mission. Make a difference professionally, personally. Integrity, passionately creating integrity-based, fun, and healthy relationships. So it's always been about once I discovered my hope and my faith, it was always about trying to make a difference for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I've had the amazing opportunity in my role as the founder and then the president and CEO until 2 years ago when I sold the business, and still have the opportunity today, but to mentor people.
Yeah.
Out of the 23 brokers I think we have here, I probably mentored 17 or 18 of those people.
It's amazing.
Those men. And to me, that's the satisfaction. My dad was that way. He was always helping people along. When my father passed away, so we're in a town of maybe 20,000 people. My dad was 87 when he passed away, and so I have a sister that still lives in LaSalle, Peru, where I'm from.
Okay.
And her husband is a mortician, right? So his family, he's the 5th generation, I think, to run the business. And so obviously we were going to do the wake and the funeral there, Catholics. And so my sister, we're talking to her obviously about that. She said, yeah, we'll have a wake on the night before from 3 to about 7 or so. And I said, I don't think that's enough time. And she said, well, he's 87. Most of his friends are gone already.
Right.
We were in line for 9 hours. We had almost 800 people walk through.
Wow.
Yeah.
That shows the true impact he made.
Right?
Huh.
So the Catholic tradition is that you line the kids up, oldest to youngest,
Yeah.
and then mom, the wife at the end. And so I was the guy that got the first handshake and the story. Well, you don't know me, but your dad did this and your dad did that. And there were so many stories, Nick. It was like, oh my God, that he never shared with any of us.
Yeah.
I'm sure mom knew him, but
Right.
I'm sitting there standing shaking my hand and bawling my eyes out.
Right. Just in amazement of what
Yeah.
you did and didn't you?
Yeah. So
Praise the Lord, you got to experience that.
100%. 100%.
That's amazing. And I mean, now to where you guys have been able to build the organization, you don't do billions of dollars of transactions on accident. I mean, it's true that you built that mission, vision, and core values based on something bigger than just yourself. What would you say maybe are like 3 non-negotiables that have helped you really build the organization to where it is today?
Well, I think making a difference is, so my core values are making a difference, passion, integrity, fun, and health. Those are my 5 core values.
Love it.
And so those are the things that that's the basis from where I make all of my choices and decisions, right? So I would say that the making a difference piece has been foundational into who God wants me to be. So.
Making a difference, I mean.
Yeah.
And you have made a difference.
Well, thanks.
You
Thanks.
really have.
I've had some.
And not only my life in the short time I've known you, but
Thanks.
especially the 17 mentees that you have and the countless of other people that I bet that you've done business with. So that's truly awesome. And I love that that's a centerpiece to you.
Well, I've been. Thanks, I appreciate that, Nick. I've gotten numerous calls over the years, even with brokers that aren't here any longer, thanking me for what I helped them to accomplish. So I'm grateful for sure.
Love it. And now in your 70s, Dan, in one sentence, what does success look like to you?
Well, it's got to start with making a difference in somebody's life. I think that we all have the ability to make a difference in people's lives, and I think choosing the positive side of that whole equation is and to provide hope for people is something that I think is lacking. I said at the start, history repeats itself.
Yeah.
And and all of the turmoil and upheaval that was going on back in the 60s and 70s. Well, let's look at the world today. The same stuff's going on. Now, there's not assassinations, but people are dying in the cities. It's crazy, right? Social media is, I think, hurting us big time. There's no responsibility or accountability behind the phone. It allows you to speak ridiculous stuff to somebody you've never met or taken the time to get to know. And so that's history repeating itself. There is always going to be social upheaval. There's always going to be unpopular wars. There's always going to be disagreement. And I think the level of disagreement that we have today is what's made it so difficult is just the force of the disagreement. There's just no, people are just divided rather than trying to help one another. It's disturbing.
It is, and you're right. It is a very divided world, and hopefully by sharing your story and others like it, that it could bring people together regardless of their political beliefs or their faith beliefs or so on and so forth, and just really truly bring people together for the greater good. And that leads me to ask, what would you say potentially is the best business advice you've ever received now in creating this organization? Would it be when the gentleman told you to start your own business? I know that's some good advice, but other than that, what would you say some of the best business advice that you've ever received?
Well, I'll say that you need to do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. I think that's probably the best thing. We're in sales. We're in a situation where it's an every sales job is an information business.
Right.
You want to provide information about what you do and why your company can do it better than somebody else's company.
Correct.
We're in the same business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in a position where, because it's information based, there are facts. There's information we can go get, right? And then how that information is laid out for the prospect, the client, the customer, it could be manipulated potentially, right? Instead of, here's the information, this is what my professional opinion is, but you got all the information.
Here's the facts.
Yeah. Not the part that you want because I can make this commission, so here's this, you get this piece of
half of it.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing any of my colleagues, because listen, I think the colleagues in my industry are fantastic. Some of my best friends are my competitors.
Yeah.
So being in business, being truthful, obviously, and I think one of the things that's missing in our education of our kids is that there's really not a lot of education on how to build and deepen relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from faith, of course, but in the schools, they're giving you, the statistics, the processes, the procedures, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of communication or conversation about the relationship.
Right.
How do you build one? What do you do to make sure that relationship deepens? There's just not a lot of that going on.
There's really not, and if you could go back and touch on that a little bit more, I think that your career trajectory is a result of the rituals, habits, routines that you've implemented in your daily life.
100%.
In building those relationships to get to where you're at now, because people don't get to know, like, and trust you if there isn't some rapport or relationship that was built. So how do you personally go about building those relationships in business?
Well, when I was drugging, you were a number.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to get that number from you because that's what meant the most to me. When I got past all of that and having the Lord in my life and the hope that He provides me, you're a human. That's a completely different approach.
Completely.
I ask a whole bunch of different questions now than I ever asked back in those days, right? To try to understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that happens with age is that the fear of asking questions goes away. And so, there's no such thing as in my opinion, there's no such thing as a below market deal. You do market deals.
Mm-hmm.
Market deals get done. And if somebody's on the side of the table that you are and we're having a conversation about your real estate, if they're not realistic about what can happen in the marketplace, then I now have the courage to say it. That's not something that we can do.
Right.
And rather than back in the days when I was full of fear, well, sure, I can make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't, because it wasn't gonna happen, right?
Market expectations.
Yeah. So, we're trying to deal on a human level here and just
Right.
have people answer some questions that are going to help us determine, one, is it market,
Right.
right? And two, how committed are they to wanting to make a deal happen?
I love that, because you build a relationship first, and
Totally,
then
100%.
are able to get into the weeds, and then they trust you because you know that you're not going to give them false information or lead them down this windy road just to get a commission out of them. You are looking at the bigger picture. It's kind of like I mentioned earlier, not letting that instant gratification, let me just get the check, but how can we do this and do many deals together and not just one? And that leads me to ask, how have you been able to structure your days, your weeks, your months, your quarters, your years to lead to that long-term success?
Well, I think it's about knowing what my place is, being clear about who I am and what my purpose is, right? And then how do my strengths line up with what the requirement might be? As it relates to my faith, I'm talking to God all the time. Sometimes not in the best mood or mode, right? But I'm constantly talking to Him. I have expectations of Him answering me, maybe not verbally like I've described. It's happened twice in my life, but there have been so many green lights, and there have been so many red lights that I now pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And I know that He's moving me in one direction or another, and so I'm paying attention to those kinds of things, in my day-to-day life.
That's amazing. And now more so on the real estate side, here in 2025, what would you say is the best way to preserve wealth?
Well, I would tell you that I think you need to look at it as money. Wealth is not yours. Mm-hmm. You're the gatekeeper. You're here to be responsible and accountable. It belongs to somebody else.
So true.
You have the opportunity to acquire some, but it's not just yours.
Wow, that hits home.
Well, you're much younger than me. So
being a little bit younger than you, what would be your advice really to the younger generation, I guess, entering CRE today?
Well, I think you need to be. So it's interesting. When I interview people, Nick, there's one of two people show up. There's the person that walks in the door and is very charismatic and pretty well put together, and they are clear that they want this, and this, whatever that might be. And then there's the people that come in and say, well, I just got out of school. This is why I want to do real estate. I'm living at home with my parents, and I promise you I'm going to work my tail off. Or the first guy is, well, I got an apartment in Lincoln Park, and I just bought a car, and so my question that I'm thinking in the back of my mind, well, do you want me to support your lifestyle? or do you want to learn the business? The second guy that comes in, he wants to know the business because he's seeing that as a vehicle for him to have some wealth,
Right.
to build some relationships. It's stark, the difference between those two people,
Yeah.
and it happens regularly.
That's super interesting. I guess on that wealth standpoint, this is kind of the out of the box question, and feel free not to disclose if you don't feel like sharing, but what would you say is the most amount of money that you've made in a single year? And I guess what really did making that money teach you?
I've been in the high six figures a number of times.
Wow.
Over my career. There are guys here that are in seven figures. And honestly, when I started this business, I never thought that would be possible. But my vision is wide open.
Right.
And so the second part of your question was,
What did it teach you?
it's fleeting, and because and it can come and go. And that's where I go back to what I said before about if you look at yourself as a caretaker of the money, I think it's a different attitude than acquiring,
Okay.
wanting more and more, because it's just stuff.
Right.
And I think a big part of, so just flashing back to when I was growing up, we were fine. My dad wasn't making a lot of money when he got started in the real estate business. He did okay.
Yeah.
But we never felt like we needed anything or there's nothing that we were missing
Right.
until we sat in front of the television and we found out about all these cars and the new washer and the new dryer and the new Schwinn bike
So true.
and this and that, and you need this and you need that, and hey, how come you don't have one of those? Which then had us kind of go to, well, Mom, Dad, how come I don't have a bike?
Right.
Want a bike? Get a job. So look at where the world is today from a social media standpoint.
It's crazy.
We're bombarded
Stuff.
constantly. I mean, you can't look at an email without having a little pop-up come up and tell you, hey, you need this.
How can you acquire more instead of being present?
Yeah.
Grateful for what you have.
Yeah. And so I think that's the negative side of the social media. And people can go down that path, and that's where I was going when I was doing when I was drugging. I wanted what I wanted, and I thought I could get the girl, or I could get this, or I could get that, and I could be the big shot.
This is just a phenomenal conversation. It's truly a masterclass on how you go from a low point to a high point, and then just stay even keel and just keep grinding year after year, day after day, and putting that trust in God. Because like you mentioned earlier, all the chips are going to go to the middle of the table at the end of the day. You're just playing with other people's money, other people's stuff. So
100%.
I guess when your team tells your story 25 years from now, or whenever that may be, what do you hope they say you really stood for?
Well, I hope that they say that I made a difference.
Your motto?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Right.
I think they will.
Yeah, I hope that, and that they knew that they could rely on me. I think there is so much that we can do to help others, whatever it is. I think being a good listener is really critical in life, and being patient. And I think, so removing fear from someone's life and having them understand that it's possible. It just takes work. But mostly that I made a difference for them.
Love it, making a difference. Well, I could go for another 2 hours, but I don't know if our marketing director, John, would like that very much. This has just been amazing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, Dan. I truly appreciate your time and collaborating and coming together and being able to have this space and shoot in your beautiful office here in Oak Brook. If anybody else wants to learn more about your story or potentially connect with you or one of your team members, what's the best place to reach out to you at so they could get your potential contact information?
Well, I'm on the website, Cawley, www.cawleycre.com.
Awesome.
You can call me anytime. I'm happy to give my phone number. You want my phone number?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
630-399-3764. Anybody
Amazing.
can call me. Happy to try to guide you wherever I can.
Pleasure, Dan. Thank you so much, brother.
It's good to see you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Nick. Appreciate it.